What a wonderful, wonderful way to kick off the Ashland Independent Film Festival with a tremendous movie, rich and part of this region itself, The Waterman. We are so, so fortunate to be joined by the star and co-star and director of the film. Please welcome the amazing and just precociously talented Lonnie Chavis, and a man you may know and recognize as well, David Owyelowo. Please, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Truly a treat to get to chat with both of you. And I'm going to start with you, David, just because this is your project. You led this, you shepherded this all the way through. Emma Needell's script was something that had been on the blacklist a number of years ago. Is that how you became familiar with the work?
Yeah, that's exactly right. For people who don't know, the Blacklist is a selection of unproduced scripts that Hollywood flocks to once a year. They've been picked by industry professionals, and everyone keeps an eye out for those diamonds in the rough that could go on to be great films. And I had grown up loving films made by companies like Amblin, filmmakers like Steven Spielberg. I'd told my agency I was looking for something like that. And then in 2015, I believe, The Waterman came onto the blacklist as a script. I read it and instantaneously fell in love with it.
I've heard you reference those films like Goonies and E.T. before, but in my mind, or in addition to that, it resonates with a film from the 90s called The Spitfire Grill, that it has a tremendous heart to it and goodness. And I wanted to know, is that something that the script was imbued with from day one, or did you do any tweaking? You've written before.
I've written before, and yes, we definitely did some development on the script, but so much of that goodness you're talking about, so much of that magical realism and all of the things I personally loved in those other films, The Goonies, E.T., Close Encounters, Stand By Me, were already baked into this story. And they are elements that I have found as a father of four myself that are harder to come by in films being made right now. And I'm talking about films that don't have to rely heavily on visual effects, aren't necessarily giant franchise movies or animated movies that can be made at a modest budget. So they're also good business, but really do a great job of juxtaposing reality, fantasy, and can also engender a conversation because they are imbued with meaning as well. And that was, the unique thing Emma Needell managed to get into this script.
She did a great job with that, certainly, and the movie stands up. You mentioned that you were a father of four, you were a father in the film, and casting the son must have been its own challenge, but you found somebody fantastic, and I wondered if you could tell us about your process of not exactly discovering, but pouncing upon the fabulously talented Lonnie Chavis.
Yeah, pouncing is a very appropriate word. I mean, I not to disparage the other wonderful young actors who auditioned for this, but Lonnie was just so head and shoulders above anyone, to the point whereby some of the reason why I am directing this film is because of how much we knew we had our gunner. What happened is that initially I was just producing and going to star in this film. We had a different director. That director left the project and we had already cast Lonnie. So we had our start date, we had our financing, but more importantly, we had our star. And because Lonnie, as the world knows, does this wonderful show, This Is Us, we had this window and he was the perfect age to play Gunner as well. You leave it another year and, as you can tell by the moment when you hear him speak, he does not sound like Gunner anymore. And so, I jumped into the directing seat partly because we just knew we'd found the perfect actor for this and we had the perfect moment to do it. So we just had to jump in and bite the bullet.
Uh, well, I'm glad the timing worked out because not only is the film wonderful, but Lonnie, your performance is just another standout in an already burgeoning career, which is amazing. I know you're 13 now, but back then 12 when shooting, correct?
Yeah, it's 12. I'm pretty sure.
And yet you seem so grounded. Have you always had this confidence in yourself and in your work?
I mean, I feel like it's really important to have confidence, but I don't really tend to be too prideful when it comes to pick. But yeah, I mean, I always feel really confident in myself, and I feel really confident that this movie will do great.
And working with David as both the director and your father, did you feel any extra pressure because he had that dual role working with you?
Um, Not really at all, but you actually think that it would be pretty hard for somebody to be an actor and director at the same time. Like, because they have to worry about the camera angles, they have to worry about other people's lines, or while they also have to worry about their lines, makeup, costume. But yet, Mr. David never bumped a transition at all. It actually, honestly, looked like a walk in the park for him, and that's what I feel like makes him such a good actor and director too. Because he's an actor, so he can understand what it feels like to be an actor, and also to get people to that emotional state in that scene.
Now, if I understand correctly, David, your wife was on set giving you sort of a little gladiator thumbs up, thumbs down on your performance. Was anybody doing that for you directing wise as well?
Well, that's what your producers are there for. So that was a more orthodox and expected role that they were sort of keeping an eye out for my direction. But the reason I had my wife on set with me is, normally I have a good sense of when I'm giving a decent performance, but I knew that I was going to have more distractions than I had ever had to field giving any other performance, because as Lonnie alluded to there, directing is you are spinning so many plates, you are being asked so many questions, you have so many other concerns that are prioritous. You cannot ignore them because you're trying to protect your performance. And so, my wife knows me better than anyone else on the planet. And so I just thought to have someone outside of me as a very reliable BS monitor was pretty crucial. Thankfully, there were not too many thumbs down. There was occasionally there was a kind of a sideways. So I knew to go again. But after about 2 weeks, I could tell that it was going to be okay. It was uncharted territory for me to be both directing and acting. But like I say, 2 weeks in, I'd found my sea legs, and I could stand my wife down. She could take the pressure could be taken off her. She's in the film as well, actually, playing the bookstore owner, so she could just get on with being an actress.
So she can do the work that she needed to do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lonnie, I'm curious. David strikes me as an actor and an individual who sort of exudes his faith, and there's clearly a spiritual element to this movie. I wondered how faith informs your life and work as an actor.
Faith. I haven't actually thought of something about that yet. How does faith work in my life as an actor?
It doesn't.
Never actually thought of something like that.
Well, but it is funny that you say that. I mean, I think Lonnie was actually 11 when we shot this. It was before the pandemic. He was really quite young, and Naja, his mom, is someone I prayed with on the set. Faith is, I know, a part of his home life. I think for a lot of us on the film, even though that is not an element that we sort of is thematically a big element in it, but there is faith in family, faith in love, faith in the ability for love to give you more strength than you can have under normal circumstances, because it's like that mother bear thing of being able to lift a car if your child is in danger. So faith on many levels, and not least the question that Lonnie's character asks his mom, where do we go after we die? And the fact that this film does end with a prayer, so faith is lightly sprinkled over the film. You're right, it does play a big part in my life, but I think that love and loving someone is an act of faith, because it's about giving without really being focused on getting back.
I just asked, and you pointed out that the last word of the script is amen, which seems intentional, certainly, even if in the movie we talk about the idea that you can't always know the ending and shouldn't know the ending.
Right.
There is some mystery there. David mentioned the idea of mothers being important, and Lonnie, I want to talk to you about that, because clearly the character of Gunnar is driven by his love for his mother, and it seems to me from the letter you wrote to your mom last year, which became very public after the George Floyd murder, that your mother is really important to you. And I wondered how you saw that connection, or if that helped you form that connection with Rosario Dawson.
Me and Ms. Rosario just hit it off, to be honest, but I definitely think that he has a stronger relationship with his mom for sure, and it really pains him to see what his mom is going through. But yeah, I feel like I could really relate to me and Gunnar having the same relationship with my mom. I mean, I would do anything for my mom. I really, really love my mom. Yeah.
And David, you dedicate the film to your mother, your late mother. So clearly, that is a critical relationship in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is in some ways a love story between a son and his mother. I just find it an incredibly beautiful idea that an 11-year-old kid would risk life and limb to save his mother, and literally nothing will stop him from doing that. My mom passed away about 4 years ago now, and she became very ill, and there was not a stone left unturned in terms of anything one could do by way of prayer, medical science, consultants, attention, personnel, financially, every single thing I could think of to do was done for my mother, because I loved her that much. Because of how well she had loved me and the life she had given me, not just literally, but a sense of self and so I dedicate it to her, because in many ways a huge theme in the film is mother. What does mother mean? I mean, one of the reasons Rosario's character is so keen for my character to spend time with my son and get to know my son and repair any acrimony with my son is that she recognizes she's the glue in that family. Once she's gone, she cannot bear the idea that this would only escalate in terms of the dysfunction between them. And there are many mothers that is the function they fulfill within their families, that being the glue, as I say. So it's kind of a no-brainer that it's not only dedicated to my mom, but mothers everywhere.
Excellent. Thank you. Lonnie, I've got to ask you, we've heard that you were young while you're making this movie. You made a film prior to this called Skin, which is an Oscar winner for Best Live Action Short. Guy Nativ was the director, with very intense subject matter. And I just rewatched the film last night, and I'm sort of blown away by your work in there as well. But it's so intense. Is that something that you can shake off after playing a character, or does it sort of stick around with you?
I mean, when I was actually filming that, I actually didn't really know that much about racism at the time. So I was actually kind of learning that while I was doing what I was doing in the movie. So it was actually kind of hard for me to believe that, somebody could actually hate somebody by the color of their skin and not the content of their character, because, I mean, as we all know here, that's stupid, right? And I mean, it still lingers on with me as a character when I'm acting and doing other things, to be honest. But I feel like it's a kind of a hard topic for me to talk about. But yeah, I feel like kind of does linger with me a little bit. I just think about it every now and then. But yeah, I guess so.
I'm always impressed when I see a great performance like yours, that it seems like there's so much emotion and so much coming up that it's fascinating to think like that can just dissipate like that, but maybe it can.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was out of nowhere. Thank you.
You know, the thing I would say about Lonnie as well, and Amaya, you know, it's one thing to find talented young actors who can do the lines, who know how to hit their marks and all that kind of stuff. But the unique quality that both Lonnie and Amaya possess that is really, you know, you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, is emotional intelligence. You know, you're having to communicate quite sophisticated thematic and emotional ideas that then have to be conveyed through their performance. And, you know, that was one of the reasons I wanted to make this film, was because I felt even in the script, it didn't speak down to kids. It didn't undermine or underestimate their ability to have emotional intelligence, but you still needed kids or young people who were able to assimilate that and convey it whilst also having all the technical attributes needed to give a good performance. And you know, that was the thing that was just so wonderful with these two young actors, is that not only were they able to take the ideas within the script, my ideas as the director, but they were able to elevate them and still retain a sort of childlike quality that is absolutely essential for the film. And, you know, I will forever be in their debt for making me look good on that front.
They're both tremendous, both Lonnie and Amaya. You know, David, we touched upon this, like you have 4 children, 3 sons. I believe that Caleb may have been in the age range of Gunnar when you were shooting. Would he have any interest in competing for the role?
Oh yeah, Caleb does want to be an actor. Caleb's actually a bit older than Lonnie. He's now 16. So, you know, and Lonnie's obviously 13. So he wasn't the right age for the role anyway. Also, it's already tough enough that I'm directing, starring in, and producing, to then have one of my children star, that would just be the wheels would fall off. I don't know that I would want to do that to myself. You know, like I say, Lonnie's mom, who is just an angel of a human being, was such a huge asset to me to have her there, you know, almost as an assistant director, really, because she knows Lonnie obviously way more than I do. And she was on set every single day. And I could see that there were moments when she would be within earshot, hearing me communicating my ideas to Lonnie. And, you know, I know for a fact that she would help him through some of those scenes that were a bit more difficult because she knew him. Even sometimes, you know, he had to do some hairy stuff. Those horses he's being chased by are real horses. The proximity that he was to those horses was real. That was not, you know, something we did in post. That log was hanging over a river, and Lonnie was scared of heights. You know, so she was there to really help him with some of the more tricky elements of it as well. I'm glad it was her, and it was not something I had to do on top of everything else.
I'm trusting that the fire wasn't real, but
no, the fire wasn't real.
And in terms of dealing with the horses and the heights, does just the idea that David calls action allow you to get past any worries that you might have, Lonnie?
Oh, that's for me. I mean, yeah, I mean, he definitely helped me. This movie definitely helped me to get through a lot of things that I was scared of. I mean, I remember specifically on that one log scene that he was touching on. He would either, well, when my mom was actually having a difficult time trying to help me, you know, get through that scene, I was kind of struggling through that because, like I said, I was afraid of heights. David would come in and be like, Naja, if I may, add a little tip, yeah? And then he would either come in and give me a personal story on his life, or he would either make me tap into my own. And it honestly really helped.
That's Lonnie's impersonation of me, by the way.
Yeah.
You're a little more posh than I expected.
Oh dear.
Well, I love it. I'm glad that it worked and works for the scene, certainly, because you do look a little bit terrified.
Yeah, I was.
So obviously, anybody who's attending the Ashland Independent Film Festival virtually or has in the past is already in love with the state of Oregon. But I'm curious, why Oregon? How'd you wind up there?
Well, for me, I was looking for a forest that could be believable as both real and magical. And, I looked at photographs from all over the United States. And there was something about those images of the Pacific Northwest that it was evident to me that we were not going to have to augment or supplement the magical nature of the forest. I mean, these moss-covered trees, the translucent greens, those rocks that looked like giants threw them there, thousands of years ago. I mean, there is something inherently magical about the Pacific Northwest and its transcendent beauty. And it also feels to me like it's not been overly used cinematically. I know that one of my favorite films, Stand By Me, was shot there. I know the Twilight series was shot there as well. Recently, Leave No Trace, I know, was shot there, which is another wonderful film. But, it's not like Louisiana or, there are places where you sort of feel like, oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that before. It's so vast as well. There's so much to choose from, between Lewis and Clark and Eagle Fern, and and we were in Estacada for where the family's house is. We were based in Portland. Oh my goodness, the best food you can have anywhere in the world. There were just so many things about choosing. It was a magical time for us. It was a magical location. The crew was unbelievable. I mean, when you have Lawrence Bennett, Oscar nominated, maybe even winning production designer, who literally lives a stone throw away from our set in Estacada. When you have Ime Etuk, who lives, our first AD, who lives in Portland, just a world-class crew right there, a lot of whom had work in Hollywood all the time, but wanted to be away from the hustle and bustle, move somewhere a little bit more quiet with their families, a little bit more nature-oriented. It was just a perfect place for the film and to have a good experience shooting a film.
Well, I know this is via Zoom, but I think I just heard the whole Oregon Tourism Board stand up and shout, hurrah! So thank you, thank you, David. They'll be living off that for a long time. I want to get back to a final thought here from the movie. It is magical, and part of that magic comes from love, part of that comes from faith, but the big takeaway for me is hope, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a question in there which I'd like to ask of each of you, since it comes up. Lonnie, what do you hope for?
What do I hope for? Specifically or just in general?
However you'd like to take that.
Just in general. What do I hope for? What do I hope for? Really just my family. I mean, my family's always there by my side, so I really just hope that they stick with me throughout this whole journey in acting. I mean, specifically my mom in speaking. She's been with me every single step of the way, and she's really just helped me and carried out a big part of my life. And I'm really just hoping that she sticks with me through every single step of the way and I never lose her.
Well, it's clear that she's raised a tremendous child along with a tremendous talent. So she's doing a great job, and you are doing the hard work, and the love is readily apparent. So thank you, Lonnie.
Thank you.
And David, if I may ask you the same question, what do you hope for?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, we shot this film before the pandemic, and weirdly, this film sort of has a slightly different feel beyond the pandemic, you know, one of the things that we would sometimes get with the script is, gosh, thematically, isn't this a little bit of an intense thing to have as a family movie? And I've always felt that kids, like I said earlier, have a higher level of emotional intelligence, but also tolerance for the harder things in life than we attribute to them. I've seen that in my own children. And, you know, there's barely a child on planet Earth who hasn't seen more adversity than, you know, we care to admit is part of life over the last year, whether it be illness, financial uncertainty of their parents, literally seeing family members passing away from the virus, you know, political unrest. There's so much we've had to field over the past year. So my general hope is that we learn some lessons from this. We don't take life for granted. We don't take each other for granted. We are you know, kinder to each other, because, you know, something like a virus does not discriminate. And, you know, I do think that kindness and love is what we are here to do and give. And then a more specific hope is, you know, we had an amazing time in the forests of Oregon, and it was so heartbreaking to see so much of it torched by these fires since we shot there. I really hope we can figure out this global warming thing. I really hope that we can be more attentive to the fact that these fires are escalating. It's getting worse year on year. And I really hope those amazing woods and forests that we had the privilege to shoot in bounce back, and you know, future generations get to enjoy them the way we did shooting it. And certainly I hope people will through the movie, but, you know, I hope they can get back to enjoying those forests in person as well.
Well, thank you for sharing a story of people who can rise from the ashes, and a story that really inspires through its message of love and hope and magic. If I had a hope right now, as I know everybody who's tuned into this Zoom has already seen the movie at the Ashland Independent Film Festival, but I think you should tell all your friends and family that the movie is going to be released on May 7th, and I hope you'll tell them to go see it without any wasted time. It's a fantastic movie, a fantastic film for the family, another great addition to the pantheon of Goonies and E.T. and Stand By Me. Thank you so much, David Owyelowo, for your work as star and director and producer, and Lonnie Chavis, truly a pleasure and a privilege to meet you. You started younger than David, and I look forward to presenting you with a Rogue Award many, many years from now when you get to the movie. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.